This is Group 8 Driver Project 4, and this is the state machine. It starts in state 0, which is idle, and then this is all fast mode first, so state 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on which button you press, goes into those states. And if you press 3 buttons at once, it switches on to slow mode, and then depending which button you press, you go to state 6 and 7.
Okay, so moving on to the code here, we just have all the header files included at the top, all the state definitions for the state machine and the switch case statement defined here, as well as the flags indicating which push buttons were clicked, and then variables for holding the state and also using the delay function. This is just the interrupt for the timer 1 interrupt, which we use timer 1 for debouncing the buttons in the change notification interrupt. In the main here we have the IO initialization, which just enables or chooses which pins are the inputs and outputs, as well as enabling the pull-ups, as well as enabling the change notification interrupts and setting the priority. As you see, this is the change notification interrupt, which starts the timer 1, which will delay it for 64 milliseconds. And then it will trigger that interrupt that we saw in main to read the inputs and set the flags. Next it has, a part of that same file was the change notification interrupt function, which I said sets all the interrupts. Then we have the init UART, which was part of the code you provided us, which just allows us to use all the UART functions. And then timer 1 and timer 2 init are in this other header file, which just set the timers correctly with the prescalers, clock sources, and priority, which is lower than the change notification. Then we just have, when you first start up, it goes into fast mode idle, which is state 0. It resets the flags and goes through the switch case statement, depending on which state it's in. Then checks all the flags that were set and goes to a different state depending on which push buttons were clicked, as we saw from the state machine diagram. Every state has some condition where if that flag is set, it will go to the next state, as you saw in the diagram. And yeah, that's about it.
And I'm Rachel, and I worked on the timer and clock files and functions.
I'm Brandon, and I worked on interfacing the UART.
And I just did the initialization and the state machine.
So now we'll do a demo.
Which one?
So when push button 1 is pressed, it should blink at 0.25 fifths of a second. You see that? And then when push button 2 is pressed, it should blink at half a second intervals, and then you can see push button 2 is pressed, it goes back to fast mode, and then when push button 3 is pressed, it should blink for approximately 1 second. And then when push button 1 and 3 are pressed together, it should be solid, which you see there. When push button 1 and 2 are pressed, it's solid. And when push button 2 and 3 are pressed, it's also solid, and that is shown by the UART. And back to fast mode. Now if we press all 3, it's now in slow mode. And then if we push button 1, it'll blink every 5 seconds. And then if I push button 2, it should it should blink every 3 seconds. There we go. And then if I push 3 push buttons again, it'll go back to fast mode idle.
That's it.
And that's about it. Thank you.